Welcome to Office Hours 44 of ChinaX. I'm here with a handsome young Adam Mitchell,
Hello.
who you've met before. And we wanted to cover some of the issues of entrepreneurship in China. One of the questions we've been asked is, very practical question, if I finish mini courses now, will I still get a certificate? Yes, indeed. In fact, at the end of Part 10, all previous courses will have a final round of score updates and certificate releases. Now, what next?
We had questions from some other learners. One person asked, this case study approach, could a similar approach be used in history or the arts?
We've actually kept thinking about that. And part of the challenge there is having a team of people like they have at the Harvard Business School to write cases and gather all the information. Some things probably would, but it's going to be a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, some others ask, they were concerned about the objectivity of the cases we've been reading. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, so the problem is simply this. We have HBS cases which are written with the agreement of the company.
They have to give final authorization.
They have to give final authorization. So, in fact, to tease out issues that are less than complementary, for example, has to be done in discussion, is not going to be written in the case. So there is a problem with objectivity, I think, yes.
But to be fair, I think the two companies that we have read about are actually, they're major companies. These are gigantic companies.
Major companies, very successful, and we're interested in how we account for their success.
Right. Another question is, users said that they wanted to know more about industrial development in general, about economic development in China.
Yes, and wait for ChinaX version 2. Now, Adam, let me bring up some questions that people ask, more specific questions. You know, when Wanxiang tried to acquire UAI, it failed. What did it learn from that in terms of avoiding failure again with other U.S. acquisitions or other acquisitions?
Well, it's been pretty successful since that failed venture. We know that 2 years ago, this was mentioned in the case, that Wanxiang acquired A123, which was a battery support supplier. Recently, last year in May, they actually acquired Fisker Automotive Holdings. And that is a company that makes the Karma car. It was actually in Finland. It's a luxury hybrid car. So Wanxiang has been positioning itself to become an electric car manufacturer in America through these acquisitions. In part of the acquisition of Fisker, it just acquired a General Motors automobile plant, an abandoned plant in Delaware. So potentially they could use that as a base for launching, unfolding production.
So stay tuned, see what's going to happen, right? And so another person asks, what's it like to be an entrepreneur in China today? What are the challenges? Because it's certainly different from 1969 when Mr. Liu began.
Very different. So I think there's a lot of changes. One is simply that the composition of the Chinese economy has shifted. In Mr. Liu's time, most of the entrepreneurs were manufacturers. They were industrialists. They're creating commodities and products, manufactured products. Today, China is shifting more into a service-oriented economy. So a lot of the young entrepreneurs that we see in China today, well, they're very similar perhaps to their counterparts in Silicon Valley. We see a lot of tech companies. You know, we have Jack Ma, the leader of Alibaba and things like that. So there's a lot of figures like that.
But presumably they still have to produce goods in China?
Services are difficult. Yes, it's difficult to sell services in China still, but it's but the composition of the economy is changing. I still think political connections and networks play as vital of a role as ever, but maybe perhaps not as much so as when Mr. Liu was doing this back in 1969.
Right, sure. Somebody asked where is the information that they needed to answer assessments. Well, I think that the answer to that would be that the case actually, if you read the case carefully, most of the information is there. And certainly you can always use the web to find out more. Somebody asked about learning more about the transport system in China and where Wanxiang fit into that. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, so the transport system in China has radically evolved over the last 20 years. We see high-speed rail connecting areas of rural Gansu and Xinjiang to the core economic areas on the East
And
Coast.
they've just actually made an agreement to run a high-speed rail line all the way from Beijing to Moscow.
That's what I've heard. I've heard there's another one potentially that could go to Singapore.
That's right.
A third of the way across the earth. So we'll see how that happens. How does Wanxiang fit into this? Well, for instance, recently, Wanxiang has contracted with the Chinese government to unfold 700 electric buses. So now Wanxiang is an electric bus manufacturer, and they've done this in Shanghai, Qingdao, and Hangzhou. And if all goes well in those cities, and those are quite special cities, but if all goes well in those cities, then they can perhaps expand.
Wow. Right. Somebody asked, where did Mr. Liu get his first 500 renminbi from?
This is a great question, an interesting question. He got it where almost all other entrepreneurs got it of that decade, of that era, which is family and friends. A group, in this case, a group of 5 farmers from the village pooled their money together because they believed in his venture, and that was the initial capital for the company.
What's the relationship between a successful private enterprise? Remember, when Mr. Liu began, it wasn't really, it was a communal enterprise, not so much a private one, but it's clearly a private enterprise. Now, a private enterprise that globalizes, and the Chinese government, the Chinese nation. How would you talk about that kind of relationship? Are they mutually supportive? Is one good for the other?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a relationship of cooperation. So, for example, this year we just learned that, Mr. Liu reported that he expected that the Chinese government would give Wanxiang a permit to build electric cars in China in the very near future. If that's the case, then he will be basically the first person poised to do that. If it was a company, Tesla has tried to enter the Chinese markets, they have a harder time of doing it. They would probably have to make some kind of joint venture with a Chinese firm. So I think there is a lot of support of the Chinese government to support Chinese companies. And they do want to see them become globally competitive, and they will, do things, offer incentives.
Now, let's turn to the discussion forum for this week, which was, should Wanxiang build an electric car? Why or why not? And we had a bunch of comments. Perhaps we could begin, Adam, with W. Skywalker, whose basic answer is yes, but in partnership with a firm with complementary expertise. What else does he have to tell us?
He says, he makes a very good point that just because you make car parts does not mean you can build cars. So many people have commented that maybe Wanxiang should stick to its core competencies. It knows how to make car parts. It hasn't made an entire automotive vehicle before. It doesn't have the branding experience that is really necessary for those large car companies.
But he's going to do it anyway.
But he's going to do it anyway. Oh yeah, so I have a wonderful quote about
Tell me.
Mr. Liu. Mr. Liu said, he will put every cent of profit Wanxiang makes into electric cars. He said, I'll burn money until Wanxiang either succeeds at making electric vehicles or Wanxiang breaks. So he wants to be a competitor with Elon Musk. We talked about the acquisition that Wanxiang made in America. He's going to compete with Tesla on domestic soil.
On U.S. soil.
On U.S. soil. And then, once they have their electric car, once they have a competitive model built, then they're going to take it to China.
We have something also from Ellie K. Namour. She recommends that the company put in place a balanced mechanism of research and development, that there are things that they need to pay attention to, the production of an electric engine and related spare parts, diversify the infrastructure, getting a retail unit. So she sees lots of pieces to this. And
I think that's absolutely right. I mean, that's exactly what Wanxiang has been doing, actually. Like I said, they acquired the electric battery maker. They spent 6 billion renminbi, about $1 billion US dollars now, in acquiring patents and capabilities in order to make the electric car.
So Tony Salas has something to say too, right?
Yeah, he says that Wanxiang should only target countries that are mature enough in terms of infrastructure to support an electric car market. So this is very interesting, and particularly America is the place I think that he's referring to, where we do see Elon Musk really with Tesla building the series of electric charging stations. But did you know that they just built the first electric charging station in China this year, and I think they're going to build 9 more along the coast of China.
Yeah. So, it seems to me that generally speaking, that the country, when you're talking about the economy, the country is not always the best level of analysis.
Right.
There may be areas within a country which are highly developed, have better infrastructure. This is true historically.
Yeah.
Right? So that if you look at southeastern China, that sort of area around Shanghai, Suzhou, Hangzhou, it's always been a leading area in manufacturing. And so something might not work in Shanxi, but it could work very well.
Or take America. I mean,
right.
you can drive an electric car in California now, and there's plenty of charging stations. But if you try to go through the Midwest,
right, you're not going to find it. Right. So Lucy Costa, welcome back, Lucy. We find go for the electric vehicles, she says, Mr. Liu. Why?
She makes a number of points. She says that electric vehicles are very important in reducing CO2 emissions and reducing urban air pollution, and they fulfill a very important role in urban public transportation.
Yep.
And this is exactly right. We talked about the electric buses that Wanxiang is now producing. Lucy says that if Wanxiang can produce electric taxis, vans, or tuk-tuks that are cheap and easy to run, then it'd be very successful.
Well, certainly it would be better for the cities. I mean, the air pollution in the cities. But somewhere along the line, the electricity has to be produced. So if it's not hydro or it's not renewable energy sources, it's going to be gas, oil, coal, right? Nuclear. We have to see how the electricity gets developed for that. NKE61 says his company can produce them at less cost than Tesla. But you told me when we were looking over these that that's not true.
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
Maybe one day. Currently, the Karma is a luxury electric car, and it costs about $100,000. Tesla's producing them for about $70,000 right now, the Model S. So they're not quite there yet, but maybe we'll see. It'll be a race to produce that $30,000 electric car.
Calamine and Simon Cole get the issue of the relationship of developing an electric car to oil price. What's the point?
Well, they say that the price of oil recently plummeted, of course, and that's had tremendous impact on the world economy. And according to Calamine, she said that some experts say that the oil price may not recover to $90 a barrel for another 5 years. So if we have very low oil prices over the long term, it's extremely difficult for electric cars to be competitive. If it's so cheap to drive gas cars, it's hard to
see, right?
to buy the electric cars.
Right, so the plummeting of oil prices hits the United States in terms of higher production costs for oil. Hits lots of things, doesn't it? Right?
Hit Russia.
Hit Russia, right? Renewable energy sources are hit by that. Jasmine Lai says Wanxiang makes the point that you've made, that others have made as well, that it doesn't have experience in car assembly. But it's a parts company. But
with the acquisitions they're making,
they seem to be changing that. Stinner has talked about it being, they need to do it for the home market because it has an environmental problem. Jay Haley says, just do that. Electric car is an opportunity. Opportunity for what, according to Jay Haley?
Well, he says the economy is slowing down, and it's going to continue to slow down. The electric vehicles is a new kind of market that potentially could experience great growth while the rest of the economy is perhaps in a slowdown. So even though it's a very risky endeavor, he says, to produce an electric car, the potential rewards of being the person who can produce a very popular, affordable electric car are really huge.
Right. And we have Dave Pomerantz. Dave, welcome back. Says it's a moot question. It's already been manufacturing the Wanxiang electric vehicle. But I thought at least that they had started to and then they pulled back. Is that right?
That's what I was told.
Okay.
They pulled production because Mr. Liu didn't think that it was competitive. It wasn't going to be a competitive product for the price.
Okay.
But as I said, I think they're repoising with the acquisitions to unroll a line.
It's going to be interesting. Dave makes the point of catching up technically with companies like Tesla, perhaps the need to find a partner in Tesla, but Musk doesn't do partnerships apparently. So,
but maybe he will for China. We don't know.
But it's going to be That's the competition, right?
Yeah.
Well, we will find out. And if we don't find out this year, then we may find out next year when ChinaX version 2 launches, or maybe 10 years from now with ChinaX version 10. Who knows? But thanks for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you so much.